Hello, how are you today? Do you want to dive into a book that might just surprise you, whether it becomes your next favorite or one you might skip? Let's find out what readers are saying about it.
Bam Cooks the Books, who has 93 likes, says, an epic new work of historical fiction by Abraham Verghese which, in a letter to his readers, he says is based on his own mother's stories. It is set in Kerala, India, spanning the years from 1900 to 1977. We meet the Paramble family and their secret in each generation. Going back several, a family member has died from drowning. The story is so rich and evocative. It deals not only with complicated family relationships, friendship and love, but also with social issues like the caste system and the right of a nation to be free to rule itself. When I come to the end of a book and I look up, just 4 days have passed. But in that time I've lived through 3 generations and learned more about the world and about myself than I do during a year of school. So true. Many thanks to author and publisher for providing me with an arc of this new book via NetGalley. My review is voluntary and the opinions expressed are my own. Carol Scheherazade, who has 119 likes, says, how I hate to not give this a 5. This really could have been a great book if an editor had the nerve to edit it. The story was good, but it was long-winded and rambling at times, distracting from the enjoyment. Addendum: after reading reviews I am wondering if it's the same book I read, and how reviews would be if another author had written it. David, who has 277 likes, says, 700 pages of historical fiction would usually be a hard pass from me, especially something that is admittedly less ambitious in terms of its literary aims, but I am a fan of Malayalam fiction, particularly works that are socially engaged and in conversation with writers and thinkers throughout India, so I gave this a shot. Alas, this book was none of those things. Except for the length. It was quite problematic in places. Child marriage was romanticized. The legacy of Christianity was largely unexamined. The history lessons were rudimentary. And we had a few characters serving as white savior figures. In conversation with others, I found I wasn't the only one picking up Gone with the Wind vibes. Verghese has indicated in interviews that he wasn't interested in engaging these topics on a political level. He was just out to tell a good story. I find that to be a very limiting approach and not at all what I look for in literary fiction. The unfortunate reality is that great works from Kerala and elsewhere in India struggle to find publishers outside the country, even after they are translated. I hope people who enjoyed this, for whatever reason, will be inclined to read work from the region instead of work merely about the region. Liz, who has 118 likes, says, I'll admit the premise of The Covenant of Water didn't excite me much. I am not big on multiple generational sagas. But this was a book club selection for both my clubs. So I dived in. I both listened and read this, which I recommend to hear the pronunciation along with being able to note the spelling of the various names. Reading it also enabled me to Google certain places when I wanted visual images. And surprisingly, I was drawn into the story almost immediately. Not so much by the idea of this family having some sort of curse on it, in which at least one member of each generation drowns, but by the character development and the way the story also draws in the history of India, in particular the Kerala area. There is a lot of discussion about the caste system, which is different for this area than other areas of India, how marriages are arranged, and other ways Indian life is so different than ours. I was surprised that there were so many major characters that weren't members of the family, including English European individuals. The story doesn't go in a straight line, so there is some back and forth between years. This meant I would assume a character had disappeared only for them to reappear later in the book, as would be expected from an author who's also a doctor. There is a focus on medicine and advancements in the field. Some of the scenes involving surgery can get a little graphic. While there are numerous deaths, this wasn't a sad book. A variety of depressing issues are addressed, including leprosy, grief and addiction, but happier ones as well, including charity, art and the desire need to create, the role of women through the years. There's actually some humor. When Uplift Master translates for McGillicuddy, I was laughing out loud. But my favorite passage was she mumbles, "God has failed us again." Yes, God failed us, she says, when he was handing out common sense. He overlooked you. Overall, I appreciated this book, but it wasn't a 5-star best of the year kind of book for me. I felt it could have been condensed. I appreciated the ending and how well Verghese wrapped all the loose endings up. I will admit to having foreseen some of the twists, but it didn't dampen my appreciation. Overall, it's a worthwhile endeavor and should make for a very interesting discussion. The author narrates the book and did an admirable job. Marguerite, who has 111 likes, says, "Finally, I've finished this. It too everything I had not to stop many times. This is one of the most disjointed, confusing, corny books I've read. I found the multiple storylines to be overwritten. Many unnecessary repetitive phrases and quotes. The transitions between chapters and storyline were amateurish. Poorly done. I am stunned that the author of Cutting for Stone, a masterpiece, wrote this. Many will disagree, but I wish I hadn't wasted my time and money on this one. Very unsatisfying."